Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about today is a question that I get asked all the time, and that's how much food do I need to store? Well, there are so many questions that a lot of you have when it comes to stockpiling and prepping for the safety of your family, and I get that. What should you be prepping? Where should I store my stockpile? How much storage do I need per person, per day, per month, per week, per year? And this is important for everyone because you want to ensure that each family member will reach their calorie, protein, carb, and fat requirements every single day when eating the food that you have stored. So when you begin to ration food is when your energy and your mood drops, and this makes it more difficult to focus on the bigger priorities that are at hand. A good rule of thumb is when preparing is to always have at least 1 week's worth of food stored somewhere cool and dry in your home, like a basement or a crawl space. That's like what I would consider the do not touch, right? And this can just be normal food that you eat every single day, and having like some cans of soup or tuna, pasta, rice, veggie that you normally eat is your first line of defense. Just buy extra of those staples that you already use every single day so that if you can't get to a grocery store for a week, you have nothing to worry about. It has been recommended that a family keeps 3 days worth of food per person, even if it's one of those 72-hour emergency kits in case of an emergency like hurricanes, tornadoes, or other natural disaster. But in these uncertain times, it may be safer to keep at least a week's worth of shelf-stable food in each person's home for each person at all times. What if a natural disaster doesn't happen frequently where you live? Prepping 3 days of food prevents you from dealing with pre-storm crowds of people who stampede through grocery stores for last-minute food, right? Having a week's worth of food for each person in your house will allow you and your family peace of mind if you ever hear of the dreaded tornado siren or emergency broadcast beeping, right? 3 days worth of food will work fine in cases of a natural disaster because cleanup and aid usually come quickly to the impacted areas. But what if something bigger happens, right? There's always that what if. Are you prepared to eat for a month at home while still reaching your food requirements? Let's talk about why you need to be prepped for at least a month. Being prepped with at least a month's worth of food will allow you more flexibility, like job loss, budget cuttings, layoffs. They happen left and right, left and right. Your family should always be prepared to deal with financial uncertainty, even if you think you have job security, right? Emergency situations are not limited to natural disasters. It could be a personal crisis, like a medical emergency that requires isolation. Or perhaps you live in a remote location where restocking supplies is not easy or immediate. That's when you realize how crucial your food stockpile really is. Preparedness is not merely a safety measure, it's a strategy for independence. When you are strapped for cash, grocery shopping can go from a fun Saturday outing to the biggest financial burden for you and yours. Prepping food for a whole month for your family can help you manage your finances if something goes wrong at work or something urgent comes up in your personal life. Of course, with the new reality that we're living in, it's really easy to see a situation in which you might not be allowed to go into a grocery store for several weeks or even a month. If you're in a situation with a forced shut in with your family, how much easier will it be for you to rest knowing that you have plenty of food and supplies? There are two different ways of approaching a short-term 30-day food supply. You can absolutely expand your 1 week supply of shelf-stable items into a month-long supply. It's easy enough to have enough crackers and flour and canned goods for 30 days. But using that on a regular basis becomes much more important. If you're stressed with job loss or sickness, the last thing you want is to be eating 2-year-old stale crackers because you forgot to keep up with your rotations. When you start to look at these longer term time frames, you're working on some serious assumptions. And you're going to assume that you can't buy food for months at a time. This has either occurred because of an extended financial situation like a job loss or economic collapse, or a widespread disaster, or an emergency of some sort. If it's the latter, you're also going to have to assume that at least some basic services are no longer being provided. Perhaps the electricity is down for a long time, or there's no fresh water system anymore. It is becoming all too common that cities are without power or clean water for extended periods of time. Take a look at Flint, Michigan. They still don't have clean water to drink after all these years. Lead contamination can happen in any city. It's not just an isolated incident. You should always have water stored for at least 3 months for each family member. So invest in some rainwater barrels. That's crucial, actually. You can attach rainwater barrels to your gutters and allow them to fill with rainwater over time. And this water can then be boiled clean, and then it's ready to drink. I recommend that each family member has enough water for 2 weeks, which is about 14 gallons per person. Staying hydrated is essential to replenish energy and refresh your body. Now, when you have storms like hurricanes, it can inhibit food and water supplies for months. I've been through it, I know. We saw it with Hurricane Katrina. Some New Orleans residents were left without access to 3 basic resources: food, water, and shelter for weeks, waiting for emergency crews to reach them. Just because a natural disaster strikes, it doesn't always mean that emergency services will be right behind them. You should always be prepared to be your own emergency crew. When it comes to determining how much food to store, don't overlook the importance of variety. Maintaining a balanced diet can help keep morale high and ensure that everyone is getting the nutrients that they need. For example, dehydrated fruits and veg can be rehydrated and add freshness to meals. Dehydrated meats provide great source of protein. The advantage of dehydrated foods is that they retain a large amount of their original nutritional value, and they're incredibly lightweight and compact to store. Now to food. What are some good things to store in your medium to long-term storage? If you're wanting to keep regular groceries like powdered milk long-term as your medium-term food storage, you really need to think of it as a lifestyle, okay? You have to regularly eat from your food preps and replace what you're eating. This ensures that your 6 months worth of food is not expired when you need it. In addition, you'll want to consider all the cooking and baking essentials as well. This includes, but is not limited to, flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, baking soda, yeast, pasta, freeze-dried fruits, freeze-dried veg, protein sources, any and all seasonings that you can think of. Just because it's survival food does not mean that it has to taste bad, okay? Remember, your storage should not just be bare essentials, because remember what I always say, okay? When it comes to eating, if you are going to be stuck with just rice and beans and maybe peanut butter, you are going to get food fatigue, and you don't ever want to get that, trust me, okay? So when figuring out how much food to store per person, consider including comfort foods. That's why I've been showing you guys how to can desserts, how to can breads. These foods, whether they're sweet treats or savory snacks, or they're a huge morale boost in a challenging situation. A well-rounded emergency food supply is not just about survival, but it's also about maintaining a standard of living that can make tough times a lot better. Trust me when I tell you. You want normalcy. You need comfort. To make life easier, stock up on some long-term survival food that'll be good in 25 years as an insurance policy. I buy, and I know you guys buy, August and Farms. Their prices are great, and they have a great taste too. My go-to is the black bean burger mix, the bell peppers, the onions, and the powdered honey. Okay? Those are the 4 things that I always buy from them. You can continue cooking and eating all the normal foods that your family enjoys right now, secure in the knowledge that you have plenty of food stockpiled in a safe place for when the time comes that is needed. With a noticeable increase in preparing for civil unrest, it's crucial to ask, how much emergency food should I have to bunker down for a year or more? Your family should be prepared if war or another pandemic strikes. America is currently looking at uncertain waters, both internally and externally. Don't act as if you don't know this already. The tension amongst all of us American citizens is growing, raising concerns about the future of our nation. This is why we prepare. Thus, the question arises, how much food storage do I need to be ready? We've already experienced the repercussions of a pandemic causing chaos in the country. Toilet paper, for crying out loud. Are you prepared to bunker down if there's another outbreak, leaving store shelves empty? While everyone else is scrambling to find the toilet paper again, you'll be watching it go down from your couch and laughing. Now, what about protein? How do you ensure that you're getting enough protein if you're not able to obtain meat and the peanuts just aren't enough? Are you willing to spend a little bit of extra money on August and Farms with their freeze dried? Heck yeah. They have the best prices anyway, but I'm just saying. Something else that you should consider for your long-term food storage needs is seeds. Seed supplements your long-term food storage to give you the opportunity to grow your own food. Seed storage requires a little bit of work, but airtight containers, you're good, okay? So for long-term survival, it's recommended to keep the following amounts of food: 8 pounds of salt, a pound of baking soda, baking powder, 40 pounds of sugar, 12 pounds of dry milk, 40 to 45 pounds of beans, 170 pounds of wheat, 20 to 25 pounds of flour, 80 pounds of rice, or 40 pounds of pasta. You got that? Okay? Do you? I'm asking you. Foods that are high in carbs like rice, pasta, and bread are very filling. However, these should be supplemented with more nutritional dense items like protein, fruits, and veg. Then if you want to add like some freeze-dried meats or tomato sauces to enhance the meals, making them more nutritious and more delicious, honestly. This harvesting season, consider canning your own tomatoes. Like I showed you how I do it, right? With the tomatoes and the basil and the garlic, and then you open it up and oh my God, the aroma is just so amazing. And then you add that to your emergency food supply and you got it made. Okay. So now let's talk about the amount of food storage needed for kids. Okay. Because this is something that I have a concern of. Why? Because I've got my niece, my nephew, my grandson, my granddaughter, and another one on the way. A little nugget on the way, my little cannoli, she's on the way. Okay. If you have children at home that we need to prep for, okay, here's a guide. Okay. I'm going to put the guide up and then I'm going to explain it to you. Here you go. Okay, so 4 to 8 years old. This age group usually requires 1,200 to 1,800 calories a day. So you're going to need 3,600 to 4,500 calories for 3 days, 16,800 to 21,000 calories for 2 weeks, 33,600 calories to 42,000 calories for a month, and 403,200 calories to 504,000 calories for a year. I know, extensive, I get it. But they're kids, they're hyper, they run, they burn a lot of energy. 9 to 13 years old. This age group usually requires 1,600 to 1,800 calories a day. You're going to need 4,800 to 5,400 calories for 3 days, 22,400 to 25,200 calories for 2 weeks, 44,800 to 50,400 calories per month, and 537,600 to 604,800 calories a year. Okay, so this is if you're going caloric, okay, which for kids, it's better to go caloric. It really, truly is. So 14 to 18. This age group usually requires 1,800 to 2,200 calories a day. You will need 5,400 to 6,600 calories for 3 days, 25,200 to 30,800 calories for 2 weeks, 50,400 to 61,600 for a month, and 604,800 to 739,200 calories for a year. Okay? Remember, this is better to overestimate than underestimate because some days you're going to need a little bit extra to keep that energy up. Okay? Now, amount of food storage needed for adults. You try to break it down. It's difficult. I get it. But the daily recommended caloric intake for women is 2,000, for men it's 2,500. For women, 6,000, for men 7,500 for 3 days. Women 28,000 for 2 weeks, men 35,000 for 2 weeks. For a month, 56,000 for women, 70,000 for men. For a year, women 672,000, for men 840,000. So, lastly, how much food to store is up to you and your particular family and your needs, okay? To what I've already mentioned, a key part of long-term food storage is proper packaging and rotation, mylar bagging it, pressure canning it, water bath, whatever. Make sure to package your foods in sturdy, airtight containers that are resistant to moisture and pests. Please, for the love of God, because you don't want to be buying all these preps and then you got to throw everything out because little Mr. Peppino decided to come into your pantry and eat your pasta because you didn't put it in an airtight container, okay? Incorporate a system where you consume the oldest items first and replace with the newer ones. This rotation not only ensures that your stockpile stays fresh, but also allows you to check and adjust the amount of food storage that is needed. Alongside of stocking up on food, having a method to prepare in case of a power outage is also critical. whether it's a solar oven, a propane grill, a fire pit, whatever. Okay? Be prepared. Having a reliable cooking source can make a huge difference in your overall preparedness and ability to weather difficult times. Lastly, while preparing your emergency food supply, do not forget about those comfort foods, because that'll be the line in the sand. It'll be the line in the sand between going nuts today or being calm today, you know? Stocking up on food is not just about survival, okay? It's also maintaining morale during tough times. Small things like that cup of coffee that you always have in the morning. Oh, my granddaughter's birthday is tomorrow. I learned how to can birthday cake from Autumn. I can give her that damn birthday cake. I'm not going to miss her birthday. Oh, this is what I'm saying. These are the things that are important, that are going to keep morale up, that are going to give you comfort, and that are going to make you feel normal. It's a much needed boost to your spirit and to your mental well-being. Remember, preparation is not just for your body. It's also for your mind. Okay? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fear less.